Hey everyone, welcome to the Alignment Keys. My name is Tina Ducharme and I help people expand their definition of who they think they are by teaching them about the soul contract. By doing this helps people to gain an understanding of how they can get into alignment with their life's journey. So on today's video, so what I do here is, if you're new to the channel, I team up with a celebrity who's crossed over to the other side, and I channel their energy. We walk through their soul contract, and then we pull some oracle cards, and I end with a healing mantra. And that's normally how the process goes. Today we have a little bit more that I'm bringing in with we had a color, and we had a totem animal that I'm going to share with you that was part of our guests' repertoire, as so to speak. So as you know by the heading, today I'm bringing through the very famous female aviator, Amelia Earhart. And so she was a pretty incredible person, and she still is very famous. People know who she is when you talk about her. This, and she grew up. I mean, she's like 124 years old now, but she grew up in like the 20s and 30s in the 1900s, and so she was born in close to the turn of the century, at a time where women still didn't have the right to vote, and again, it was very much a man's world at that time. And so she did a lot of great things and kind of shattered a lot of those preconceived notions. So, okay, she was born in July. And of course, as we know, she disappeared on one of her biggest adventures. And so we'll talk a little bit about that when I pull up her soul contract here. So she was the first female aviator to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. I'm reading Wikipedia here for you to give you a little bit about what she accomplished. And of course, she was born in the US. I believe she was the first American female to be licensed. I think there were like 16 others though, so she wasn't the only female. But she was, like I said, she was the first female aviator to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. She set another record, I thought I wrote down about, the first, so she was the first person, man or woman, to fly between Honolulu and Oakland, California. She was one of the first aviators to promote commercial air travel. She wrote some best-selling books about her flying experiences. She was instrumental in the formation of the 99s, which is an organization for female pilots. And I'm going to point out the significance in her chart when I pull that up here. So again, like I said, she was just this brave. I am going to pull up her contract here so we can get started. So let me please share my screen. And there she is. So as I'm talking about her this well, you can see her. And this picture was taken in the plane that she disappeared in. This was taken before her takeoff flight. So I thought it was very appropriate to bring that in. And so with the soul contracts, this is what a soul contract chart looks like if you're new to the channel. I always do put a short introductory video that I've done in my description box below in case you would like to know more about the history and how I put the charts together. And so just to recap a little bit, we have a physical triangle that points towards the earth. Here, let me annotate my screen here, or my mouse, I'm sorry. So we have this physical triangle and then our spiritual side. So we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And so what the numbers represent is vibrations and energy. And what it does is it sends out into the world experiences for us so that we may grow in our incarnation here. And so we have our karma, which is our opportunities for growth. And then we're giving these talents that act as a fulcrum between our karma, our opportunities, and our goals. So we have a physical side to those and a spiritual side. And then the number in the middle is the overall energy that we came here to gain this particular perspective during this incarnation. So, like I had said, in this particular video, Amelia's first plane that she bought with the help of her mother. She did have kind of a very supportive family, being the fact that she was born in 1897. And like I said, women were not known to be these innovators and visionary type people, and especially somebody as fearless as Amelia was, even though she was not fearless, but about her being able to act on her fear, overcome those fears and know the risks and how that all played out for her. So her first plane she bought was painted yellow, and she named it the Canary. And so yellow, the color yellow is tied to joy and happiness, something obviously that flying gave to Amelia. And she wanted me to highlight this Canary spirit because that was kind of like her spirit totem animal. And so the canary is a symbol of light and illumination. And as the illumination fills your being, you feel the reconnection to your joyful soul. So this ties into that color yellow. Light surrounds you and feels enchanted as if a gift from above has been bestowed upon you. Everything coming into view in a new way. And so it's about the realm of eternal bliss and light that fills your spirit. And so she wanted me to read this part. She was a super sensitive person, and so I'll show you that in her chart where that comes from. And so this is a blessing of divine promise, comes with the delicate and sensitive little canary totem. But the canary is also a symbolic reminder that we need to honor our sensitivities. If you are aligned to the power animal canary, you will need clean air, blue skies, and lots of natural light. You may be very empathic, taking on too many toxic energies of those around you, and be aware of that because you are simply too sensitive, and you must learn to create and use a powerful psychic shield. Avoid going into the darkness of the caverns of others' stories and neediness, where they may try to use you for their own devices. So this is a little bit of warning to all of you very sensitive beings, empaths, light workers out there, to watch who's coming into your life and what they want from you. And Amelia had, like I said, she was a very, very sensitive person as well, coming from this highly hypersensitive 2 in her chart and this high frequency number of the 8 in her chart, which is a very high frequency soul coming down into this very dense earth. So I'm not surprised that she wanted to fly up into the clouds. As you can tell from that canary spirit, that's where she felt free and safe. And so, and to get away from all of that and be in the blue skies. So let's start with her physical karma, because in most of our charts, that's kind of where we begin, where we start to emanate our reality out to the world, what kind of experiences we start to draw to ourselves. And so 7s are all about working with and healing the heart. And so this is about Amelia learning to blend who she was inside with what she was showing to people on the outside. So sevens can be very much this Gemini energy where there's two sides to the people. And upon listening to some interviews about with her sister later, very late in life, and a cousin, you know, they talked about that nobody really knew the real Amelia. And so sevens can have this way of really putting on this mask and not showing who they really are. And so what happens here, what kind of experiences they have that cause this, is that there was a lot of strife in her parents' marriage, and her dad was an alcoholic and he struggled keeping a job. And so there was a lot of fighting and a lot of chaos there. And so this was a way, and so when that happens with a young child, what can happen is that child starts to, because she was such a sensitive, they start to take on those energies and feel, sevens can feel at a very deep level that there's something wrong with them, that they're causing this, that they're to blame. And so then they become very insecure and they start hiding themselves because they're afraid of showing the real them, because they think they will be rejected and you know, be seen as this bad person. And so this would make her very indecisive in her relationships. And you know, but as she started to learn to act in alignment with her passions and with who she was, then she would get these, you know, results that would give her more confidence. And that's how we start to break out of these patterns. And so then like-minded people start to show up, and opportunities and gifts start to show up for you. The more, especially someone with sevens, start to open up their heart, they become very magnetic, and then people are drawn to them. And so she always thought that her flying would be just a hobby, and she was very grateful for it, and she loved it so much. But again, because when you're emanating out this passion and she's opening up her heart to this wonderful passion that she's found, then opportunities arrive, and she gets a call from this promoter wanting you know, her to challenge her to make this first woman solo trip across the Atlantic. And so she wasn't actually going to be flying the plane. She was actually a passenger, but she'd be the first woman that, you know, crossed the Atlantic in a plane. And so that was her first opportunity, and she took it. So you have to remember, when the universe gives you opportunities, it's really important for you to if it's something you really want, to do it, because that's how you start to get into motion with what you really came here to get into alignment with what you came here to do. And so they called it this friendship flight. And she was, again, she wasn't the pilot. She was just kind of jotting down the course and taking some notes and things. There was two other men along. One was a pilot, and then but she actually got a lot of attention for that. She didn't really like it because it wasn't about her being a pilot, and that's what she really wanted to be. And so she didn't think it was very deserved. And so but it did give her the attention she needed to start giving her those opportunities, because flying was very expensive. And so these opportunities she was getting was starting to make her be a celebrity. And so that was something, you know, where she ended up, you know, kind of getting more into when she was starting to set records. But it was giving her a way to, so she was doing like promotional work, and she was like taking on, you know, like branding stuff like big stars do, where they speak, they're spokesmen for certain, you know, brands. And she even did cigarettes, which is really against kind of who she was at a deep level. And just, but it like I said, it was fueling her desire to fly, because it was a very expensive hobby, and she didn't come from money. She was very poor and she was making her way on her own, and she was actually supporting her family. And so let's get into these great talents she had that were the 8s here, which is a very super grounding energy for her. And like I said, this means she was a very high frequency soul, but it also meant that she was really going to find, no matter what she wanted to do in life, she would find a way to fit into society. And she accomplished that with these 8s here. And so this could help her offset her indecisive 7s and help her to, because the 7s are all about propelling yourself into action as well. It can be facilitating groups or catalyzing people into action, but it's about you taking action as well. And so, so this allowed her to, fit into society like she was meant to, but to do what she wanted to fit into society and not, get stuck with what others thought she should do. And so this also means the 8s were also about her to connect emotionally with people and to extend her hand out and to help others too, and which she did. And so we talked about her goals here. She has this wonderful 6 energy. And so when you see like these double numbers where it's 7, 7, and then you have a 19, 1, that's a blended energy of 2 numbers, and the 6 or the 7 or the 8. This is what she came here to experience, just this set of vibrations in this aspect. And so for physical goals, this is really where she came to be creative. I mean, she designed clothes. She was very visually creative, and really this was about her to be this is what really enabled her to take. 7s can be this dreamland energy, and this is taking her big dreams of flying that people would think that are not reality. And the 8s gave her the ability to ground them, but the 6s were the ones that give you the thought, and it pushes you to focus and make that plan on how that's going to become a reality. And so those 6s are really about focus, 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 and learning how to focus and make what you want actually materialize. And so, we call it the convertible knot, because it takes a thought and it turns it into something material, like building something out of nothing. Basically, you see people who can build statues and create things out of mountains, like, it's just amazing how some people can really ground those dreams. And she did make this one statement I wanted to say about the 7s when she was talking about dreams. She said, she had made this statement, and I thought it was so etheric and so kind of spiritual. And she said, the planets are always dreaming dreams. And doesn't that just sound like this angelic, celestial energy, and how she was, converting this astrological planets, about flying off into the heavens, and just absolutely making that a reality. And so 6s also give you this great ability to take risks. And obviously that was something that she could do. She was very much about being able to transmute the 7, the inaction from the karmic side of the 7, and take those risks and turn it into action. And so very, very much, definitely her physical goals were all met with that creativity. And so when you really start working through that physical side, you activate your spiritual side. And so the karmic side for her is the 19 is the 19-1, but the 19 specifically is about allowing society to dictate your actions. And so she did struggle with this one, even, obviously the society and culture has an effect on you, but this one, it gets to be a little more challenging, where when her parents divorced, she ended up selling that plane, the Canary, what she wanted. And she moved with her mom and her sister elsewhere because her parents had divorced. And she was really helping to support her family. And so this, again, 8s can have, they get a little over emotionally involved, and they take on almost a martyr energy, can take on the over responsibilities. And so again, this 19 was pushing, was dictating what she should do, not what she wanted to, right? And so she ended up leaving behind her flying, and she went and moved and took a job. I believe it was teaching. She did do some teaching, and that's from this great energy of the 12 3s, which is really tied to her great love of learning about flying. And 12s are all about, they want to get as much knowledge in as they can during this lifetime. They'll always feel like they're a little rushed, that they just need to absorb as much as they can. So she was really, and I mean, there wasn't, you have to remember, flying airplanes, I mean, it was like 1903. I even looked it up because I was like, she was flying in the 1930s and the 1920s, and planes were only in existence in the, I mean, like 1912 was like, you know, when they were starting to actually be able to go more than like 60 feet or something. It was just insane when you think about that. So for her, the learning part was really the doing more than anything, because there wasn't a lot written about flying and those types of things. But this would be her ability to be very savvy, and this is all about expanding that knowledge and learning your passion. And so I am just so amazed by what she accomplished here in this life. It is pretty incredible. And so this 3, which is tied to communication, and this is the, you know, I look at a lot of symbolism when I'm looking at people's charts and their names and the symbolism, and you see this ear in Earhart, and the 3 is tied to the ear and communication, and really hearing what people are saying, and keeping that open communication. And so we know on her last flight, communication was partly the issue in her, and what I am getting from her in her crash. Because when you know, there's a lot of conspiracy theories and things like that, but what I was seeing in my third eye was her running out of fuel and going straight down into water. And so that's what I was seeing, and that's what and I, you know, I'm saying it was, she was like, it felt really quick. It wasn't this lingering, you know, I think she was only flying pretty low at that point anyways, but I do see there was this dive into the water. So, and I'm getting, I always get confirmation when my nose starts itching. So, so again, you know, this was communication. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So I have notes for each number. I want to make sure that I'm hitting on all of the different energies, because she had a lot going on in this chart. And so the 3s, like I said, the 12 3s are about, you know, her love, that 12, the love, the knowledge she had for planes and sharing that. So the 3s are all this teacher energy and about sharing what you've learned. And so she was a teacher at different times in her life. She was, I think she taught English to immigrant children. And so she was at the university, which helped to, through her promotions, help paid for this last flight that she ended up taking. And so most of her stunts were all very promotional, and it was very much about money. 3s are also tied to money. And so she did have a promotion guy that she ended up marrying eventually, that helped promote her, you know, to get her gigs and to keep her flying, which was her great love. And so that was, So threes, yep, are all about leadership skills and being able to take that initiative. So this is a great talent for her in taking those risks and taking that action. And that also helped any indecisiveness in the sevens to be able to take action where she needed to and give her this great sense of self-worth, because most people that interviewed that actually knew her said she had a great sense of self. That also came from these nines, but the threes are tied to your self-worth. And so she did have a very, for that women in that day and age, because, and that was partly, she said, because of her great support from her family. Not a lot of women could have done what she did, but her mom and dad, even though they were very worried about how she, you know, was going to make it in the world, they very much supported their daughters. And she was so much what they said, a tomboy, you know, that's this masculine energy as a child. And so they allowed her to be that, and she didn't have to run around in dresses and be this girly girl, and which she did not want to. She loved pants and she loved the freedom that gave her. And so again, this was what she was meant to overcome, letting society dictate how you should be and how you should act and what you should wear. And so you can see that she was doing all of that. That's really what that 19-1 was meant for her to do. So she, but you know, on occasion she would get she would get this, you know, opportunities for growth to either, oh, are you going to choose the path of what society wants, or are you going to follow your heart? You know, so she, you know, would get challenged with that. And that's meant when you pick these numbers, she wanted that challenge when she came here so that she could overcome it. So the twos in her spiritual goals was really tied to perceiving things from different perspectives. And I thought this was kind of quiet and really seeing things from a higher perspective. And you know, here she's up flying in the clouds, but it's kind of this very funny, really real way to look at it. And so you see this little spring. And so this was really about her to learn wisdom and this emotional resiliency. So the twos are also tied to what we call the foolishness to wisdom number. And so it's about sometimes making foolish decisions to learn from them, to grow. And she did have a lot of accidents and things. Like she wasn't just, you know, and she wasn't like the most skilled pilot either. I mean, she spent a lot of time more on like her promotional stuff and things like that, which was part of the reason for the issues that came about in that final flight, because that was her longest flight. And there were some things that she was not as prepared for as she should have been. And because she was so busy, and this again is that twos can be a little bit of this misuse of abilities and kind of clouding your judgment. I talk about this a lot in Steve Irwin's video, the crocodile guy hunter, and part of that too can be this little bit of a blockage in your judgment. So the twos make you very super hypersensitive. So this is where her sensitivity comes from. And so again, she had some issues with this communication number, even though that's in talents, because she's a little bit blocked here by this. Ones can be disempowerment from masculine. And so we had some issues with the guy that she was flying with as well. And so, but let's talk about overall her soul destiny. And it's funny how the women that she was teaching and helping, which was really part of her gifts that she was here to give, was called the 99s. They were, and oh, how convenient is that, right? And so this is all, nines are powerful numbers, and to have that in your soul destiny, it's very, very powerful. And it's, you know, the most powerful number of the vibrations that we talk about, and all numbers have positive and negative sides to them. You get more of the negative aspects in your karma side than your talents. You get more of the positive as you start to open up to them. And so this is all about empowerment with no boundaries. And isn't that so wonderfully represented in this flying, and not allowing these boundaries that, you know, society will dictate in the 19-1s to keep you disempowered, because the 9s can have a lot of disempowerment initially with them. And so the 9s are all about bringing in higher levels of truth, as well as expressing herself in society through her work as obviously the female aviator that she was. And this number also would give her this sense that she would be fine no matter what, because it's a very direct connection to source. And of course we come down here in this separate bodies, but it gives you this sense that at a soul level, you can't ever die at a soul level. And so when you have this in your soul destiny, you have this feeling you'll be safe no matter what, because we can't die. The body can, though. And that's where we get, you know, 8s can also have a little bit of disregard for the body. I know she flew a lot of, like, she went 19 hours. She had set a record, and I thought that was funny how the 19 here, but she had sent this record for 19 hours, and she only had some water, and she didn't eat her sandwich. She had brought a sandwich, and she had some tomato juice, and for 19 hours, and she's flying, she's ignoring the body's needs, right? And so 8s kind of have that as well. And then so she's got that with the 9s. So not understanding this vessel needs to be taken care of. And so this was about her to also bring the 2s to also draw people to you like the 7s do. And they make you feel safe and protected. And so this you know, was this kind of a little bit of a false security here for her, but that was what got her where she was, right? This being able to take these great risks. And and this is about, you know, drawing those people emotionally supportive to others, because this is all about being emotionally supportive and with the other female aviators, and helping them in their journeys, especially because she was so famous. And so, you know, it gave her a lot of power. And so it was also to help remove that victim consciousness of gender suppression. That was one of her main things here. And that was a big help. I mean, she was friends with Eleanor Roosevelt. They worked on, you know, she was part of the Equal Rights Amendment. Lots of, she did so much for the world. And so the 19s are also tied to that helping mankind in some way evolve. And so that absolutely, you know, she did a wonderful job, because we really want to transmute these numbers into their positive side. And it's all about healing the heart for her here, integrating as one person and being comfortable with who she was, and bringing the spiritual down into the manifested form, and elevating mankind in a way in whatever she does. And the 8s were to bring that to society and to grow and expand it. And so just she was a wonderful representation of how she aligned with her passion, how she through her life, she continued and gradually achieved basically her soul destiny. But let's talk about what went wrong with, because she died at the age of 39. Like that adds up to 3 and 9. You see the 3 here and the 9 here, adds up to 12. So what that says to me is that was the end of her expansion, right? Because 12s are all about this expansion energy. But so that we want to talk about that last flight, because when she originally took off, so she had this great crew and stuff lined up initially. There was a lot of planning that went into this, but it was talked about how she had exhausted herself doing all this promotions and going all over the country, trying to raise money, getting people, you know, because she was planning to retire after this, as far as these big, like this was going to be her last big adventure. And this one was about her going around the equator, around the world, by the equator, and that's 27,000 miles. I thought it was funny that she's got 2 and 7 here, and then that adds up to 9 as well. I'm always big into this numerology and all the symbolism with it. So, but when she first initially took off, they crashed. And so there was a huge delay, took like $30,000 to fix the plane. And so that was her first sign that things were not where they needed to be, right? Because we get signs from the universe, you know. And so there was another issue, because so she had this crew, because she had somebody who understood the communications, because this was a longer flight. And so she ended up going over like 4 continents. She made it 3/4 of the way across. And then she had her biggest jump from, oh, I forget where she was. So Laos, New Guinea, I think it was. And then she had to fly to this New Holland, which was like the next jump would be like to Honolulu. And so this was the farthest one. And this was pushing the plane to its maximum capability as far as fuel and stuff. So this was the biggest risk. But the real issue is that she did not take the time to learn the communication system. She had very little training, because they were going to connect with the radio. The Coast Guard was going to radio her where she was to help her make sure that she could get landed on Holland, because she would need to refuel there. And so she gets to New Guinea, but she's not feeling well. She's having trouble. So when they set off the next time, there's only 2 of them that leave. Initially, there was going to be 4. And so there was a fallout between her husband didn't want this guy to go because he thought maybe they were having an affair. It's all this drama and chaos, right? And so she ends up, after this crash, then she just has this one guy who's going to go, who has this drinking problem. And here's this kind of fallback, right, from her father, and this disempowerment from this. And so she's going with this guy who doesn't have the capabilities the other guys had as far as how to handle the communication stuff. And so this is tied to the 3 and to the ear we talk about, because so she hits this fog, and they could hear her communication, but she could not hear them, is what ended up happening. And so there's this blockages that is going on. And they actually, before she left New Guinea, because she had said she was having issues with this Noonan guy that was with her. And her husband told her to just abort the mission. This was her next sign. She had warnings, you know, that to abort the issue, but she felt all this obligation to everybody that, you know, was expecting her to do this. And so then that ego kind of takes over, and it's like, no, I have to do this. And so then she took off and ended up running out of fuel, because that's kind of what I got from her. And so, but she's, again, these are all very valuable lessons that are learned here. And so no regrets. She did quite an astounding thing. So there's nothing I can say negatively about this chart, for the incredible amount of things that, you know, she brought to the table, and what she did for women was just very much an incredible thing. So we want to get to some cards and see what else she would like to bring through. And so I'm drawn right away to the Work Your Light deck. So let's get a few cards from Amelia here before this gets too long. And so, oh, right away, the Priestess energy is coming through. And it's saying, how are you being called to step up and lead? And I love how the golden wings here, you can see this on the card again, that gold and this pyramid here. Oh, very incredible. And kind of this, almost like a compass thing. I never noticed that in that picture before. So knowing, leading, but knowing your way, trusting. Wonderful. So that's a good question for all of us. How can we step up and lead in our lives? So the next one I've got, great way to start off the reading. Oh, this one wanted to come out, and I've got embracing. So I've had that one before. So this is sometimes life overflows with emotions, which can feel uncomfortable. However, the ensuing result of this discomfort can be of great value, perhaps arising from an unseen or unknown source. You get this card when emotions are seemingly overflowing or not flowing at all. Cherish the overflow of emotions and embrace the times that seem murky, for your inner floodplains are being replenished. And as a result, there will be great spiritual and physical expansion. So she had that, again, the 2s, which was all about that emotional overflowing, and the expansion part of the 12. So embrace all your emotions that will flow into your life. So, and when you do embrace those emotions, greater prosperity and fertility will flow into your life. Alternatively, if your emotions have been blocked, this is the time to explore and experience them. So they're not meant to be shoved down. They're meant to be felt. And we talk about this a lot. That's how you keep shoving them down, they're gonna find ways to resurface. So it's really about acknowledging them and allowing them to show themselves. Very beautiful card. And again, another bird energy. A bird, I guess I don't want to ignore that, since this is really with the canary coming through and that beautiful yellow. And so we're going to the Oracle of the Shapeshifters. See what else. Oh, it's called POE'S Brave Flight. You will not let fear stop you this time. And it's 26. She had a 2 and a 6. 2s are about the emotions, 6 are about the risk, and add them together, it was her 8s, grounding it. And here you see her there with her, you can't make this stuff up, aviator glasses on, that blimp in the background, and her bird that represents that crow letting go of those fears. Oh my goodness, how amazing is this card? So wonderful. I love that. Okay, so we're going to go to Keepers of the Light Oracle. Ooh. And this is HILARION, Divine Healing. Honor your sensitivity. Retreat to recharge and heal. Your light can support others. And she said this was a lesson for her. Now see, the green symbolizes the heart chakra. And so 7s for her was all about heart healing. She's a very sensitive person. So this is all about to honor that sensitivity, and she should have stopped and recharged and healed. She was not ready. She was being pushed into that and into that last flight. And so we're going to talk about about who HILARION is, because he's not well known as the angel. So he's a spiritual master who lived in the Middle East during the 4th century. At the age of 15, he felt the call to go to the retreat of Saint Anthony in the Egyptian desert. This was busy with people needing healing. So after a while, he went back home with some monks. During that time, his parents passed away, and it is said that HILARION was so devoted to service, he gave all of their estate to his brothers and the poor. For the rest of his life, he lived as a hermit in a cave and was said to perform miracles with his prayers and touch. To this day, he is dedicated to healing. But he also helps spiritual people who feel overly sensitive to overcome their challenges and integrate with the normal world. The world can seem overwhelming to you, and it's okay to retreat to a safe space every now and then to cleanse and recharge your energy. You may feel called to serve others or share your healing with them, but please ensure you are filled up with light, love, and energy first, so that you are not sacrificing your own development for others. You are surrounded by the healing light of HILARION and the healing angels at this time so that you can recharge and feel whole. So some more words about sensitivity. Let's honor our sensitivity and that balance between, serving and honoring ourselves and serving others. So we're going to go next to, this is the mermaid, and I see Amelia as the slave. So what would she like to say? Blessings. It's a beautiful card, and there she in the water, but it was all blessings, all of it. The emotion, the learning. Wonderful. You can see all the fish being drawn to her. There's all these fish all around her in the water. And how important that is, blessings and your gratitude journal and being able to, she was known as a very optimistic, very fun-loving person and drew a lot of great experiences and opportunities for that. So we're going to go next to the fairies. Again, just kind of part of her sensitivity and her energy. And here we go. We got some more green coming through. And I wanted to wear this green kind of camouflagey color today with my purple. And so this card, which is so beautiful, is Ask for Help. Angels are celestial beings who protect everyone, and the fairies say now is the time for you to ask for angelic assistance. It's so beautiful. Just gorgeous with the pink stardust. And let's see if there's any other message here in this card. So okay, with this card, the fairies are encouraging you to call on a personal guardian angel to help you through any tricky situation you may be experiencing. The fairies will also sprinkle some fairy dust on you to give you some cheer and joy during challenging times, or even if you just need a fairy boost. Be aware that sometimes fairies are referred to as the angels of nature or nature angels, but they're not celestial angels. The roles are very different from one another, though they sometimes meet somewhere in the middle. Remember that there are no rules and that the angels are happy to work with fairies and humans alike when it is in the highest and best good for all. So yeah, call on either or. And don't be afraid to ask for help, because that's a very egoic trait, and that we have to do everything on our own and that we'll seem weak. It's really a weakness to not help. We're not here meant to struggle. That's an illusion of the ego. So, because these numbers all have that egoic aspect to them that we're meant to overcome here. And so, oh, I love this. So I did the animal deck next, and this is the Koala Spirit, which is 35, which adds up to her 8. Spirit has a plan, and that's all about what's so beautiful. Trusting. Let's see what we got here. In nature, the koala moves slowly through the branches of the eucalyptus tree, leisurely chewing the leaves, reminding us that life is not a race or competition. This is where Amelia got into a little bit of trouble with that 12-3 in her chart, because it always, you feel like you don't have enough time, that you, and the 8s actually are very clairvoyant, and about, she had mentioned about, she had told her sister she didn't think that she would live a long life. She knew, you know kind of deeply that these risks could really, even though the 9s gave her that feeling she'd be all right, that she knew she was pushing those boundaries. And so chasing after every distraction can keep us from recognizing that we have all we need and that spirit will always be there with gifts to sustain us. You are being asked to trust that by moving slowly with faith in the abundance that is everywhere, surrendering to a power greater than yourself, you will be able to experience the manifestation of your desire. As you take your time enjoying the riches available to you right now, sitting peacefully, you begin to radiate the joy and abundance you seek. Spirit is here to help you discover happiness, pleasure, and contentment, all gifts that are yours now and in the future. Have faith and trust in Spirit's plan for you, and know that you are loved and cherished. So we have more about joy, happiness, that yellow energy, the green here, that is tied to the heart chakra and opening that up, that gratitude. But again, another message about trusting in spirit and following your bliss and your joy. So we're going to go to James von Prague and get an actual message from her. What would she like to say? Or tell us about the other side? Oh, she says, if I had only known then what I know now, I would have lived differently. That new perspective, and that was in her spiritual goals, was to gain that new perspective. So let's see. It's on page 47. 11 new beginnings. While living on earth, if I had realized just how creative and powerful my thoughts were and their effect on another person, I would have been so much more aware of what I put out. Of course, I have regrets, but now I also realize that these were merely opportunities to grow. We never stop learning here or on earth. My deepest wish is that from my words, you learn to treat another person as you would yourself. Let go of old earthly patterns of judgment and fear, and make an effort to bring love to everything and everyone who walks upon your path. That way, when you come here, you will have no room for regrets, I promise. Oh. And so we're going to do the last one, of course, from the Archangel Self-Mastery deck. Came out just a little too soon. We're gonna. There's a lot of them wanting to come up. She's ready. She has something she wants to say. Let me see if I can. Okay. Okay. This one. So this is the boat on the water, and it says, go with the flow, paddle on. And it's a 42, which adds up to 6, about that creativity. And let's see what, this is the Archangel Metatron Self-Mastery book. Always great messages in here. So you were asked to take a moment to think about what you really believe. And that 6, that 20, that 42 adds up to 6, which is about the thought, and your thoughts are tied to your belief system. And then thoughts turn into your emotions, and that's what drives your manifestations. So it's all through the emotional body. So do you believe that life is a dangerous place where you are not equipped to survive, a place where unseen dangers lie behind everything? Or do you feel at peace with life, ready to allow Archangel Metatron to steer you where you need to be, flowing in your own way and power towards the next destination? The energy of flow helps you to understand that to trust in spirit means you are given what you need for your journey. You are provided with a simple boat to sail down life's meandering ways. You do not need unnecessary burdens or luxuries. You will be given what you need at any one time so that you can travel light, unhindered by heavy pressure or possessions. You are provided with a simple oar to steer yourself. How do you see this? As something inadequate for your purpose, or that you will actually need it? For there are unseen forces at work in the process of flow. If you could see this, it would make it easier for you to adopt this stance. Yes, it would make a mockery of flow, which is about trust and faith. You never set off down the river unprepared, and you are always supported by Archangel Metatron at every twist or turn. You are asked to really feel into this now. Ask yourself, who makes the waters smooth, enabling safe passage through the wildest whirlpools and cascading waterfalls? Even when you reach the water's edge and can see nothing of the horizon, Metatron is there to carry you and your boat to safety to the next place along the way. If you would only flow and allow the spiritual realm to carry you on, let go and surrender, you would be able to see the beauty all around you on every part of your journey forward. It is a journey without beginning or end, the path of eternal life that takes us through this incarnation into the next. And it is so much easier for body, mind, and soul if we let it go and flow, a fluid state free of control of ego or will, that just allows life to unfold and at its own pace, in its own time, and in its own way. Everything is provided. Flow and you will see. Thank you for that spectacular message. So before we do our last final mantra card, I did write down a quote from her where she talked about courage is the price that life exacts for granting peace. The soul that knows it not knows no release from little things, knows not the livid loneliness of fear, nor mountain heights where bitter joy can hear the sound of wings. She had written that poem, and I thought that was so beautiful because it brought in the peace, the courage, bringing in the peace, and then her soul releasing all of those little worries and things, and then that where fear hoards that loneliness, but the mountains and just the joy and the sound of wings, so magical, just beautiful. So our mantra for today, and perfectly ending to this, because it's all about releasing expectations. So only the highest possibilities come to be, whether I envision them or not. Only the highest possibilities come to be, whether I envision them or not. Only the highest possibilities come to be, whether I envision them or not. So this mantra, let's read about that, because releasing expectations is so important. And so when you release expectations, it is no longer your job to be in control of reality. You are a soul birthed from the fabric of destiny, where only the perfection of universal will takes shape and form, Once expectations are released, a life beyond your wildest imagination is given permission to enter your reality. This mantra is ideal for having more faith, learning how to trust, and alleviating disappointment. I think we could all use this. Thank you, Amelia. I also put all of this in the description box below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It's free, and it just helps the channel to grow and to get the messages out to other people who would be interested in seeing and hearing the messages from these wonderful beings who are helping us from the other side. And so thank you for being here. Thank you to Amelia for all of her work she did in helping us, the divine feminine, start to rise in our consciousness. All of us start to balance that feminine masculine side. And so she was a big proponent of that, giving us that view of what was out of the norm and out of the boundaries for what the expectations for women were. So I honor her and thank her for being here, the priestess energy, such she was. And she's also thanking everyone, and I'm feeling a lot of gratitude and she just, the journey was, she wouldn't have changed any of it. They always, you know, come through with very similar things that way, because they're just, they can see the whole thing and how it all unfolds. And so you don't want to take out one piece or the other, because it's all part of that, you know, that journey and the experience. And now she's able to see it from all different perspectives. So she's like, fly high, everybody, raise that vibration. Let's anchor our light. And thank you for being here. I love you so much, and take care. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.